Hello and welcome to our video on the top 10 most deranged serial killers of all time. The serial killers discussed below, though, aren't just anyone. They are some of the most horrifying individuals to ever walk the earth. From kidnapping to dismemberment, these monsters have left a trail of destruction in their wake. So without further ado, let's dive into the list. Number 10. Starting off the list at number 10, we have Pedro Lopez. The native of Colombia claims to have raped and killed more than 300 women across Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. In 1980, the monster of the Andes was arrested and led police to the graves of 53 victims between the ages of 9 and 12. Lopez was found guilty of murdering 110 girls in Ecuador. He also confessed to an additional 240 murders in Peru and Colombia, and was declared insane. Incredibly, Lopez was released in 1998 for good behavior, and while there are plenty of rumors, no one can confirm exactly where he is today. Number 9. At number 9, we have Joseph James DeAngelo, 1945. Though his crimes occurred decades ago between 1974 and 1986, over the course of 3 separate crime sprees, DeAngelo murdered at least 13 people, raped more than 50, and committed well over 100 burglaries. His training undoubtedly helped him in planning and executing his crimes while minimizing the physical evidence he left behind. DeAngelo was also known to hide in the home, tricking his victims into thinking that he'd left, only to jump out of the shadows. He would often take souvenirs of his crimes with him as trophies to remind him of what he'd done. Number 8. Taking the number 8 spot is Joachim Kroll, 1933 to 1991. German serial killer Joachim Kroll murdered at least 14 people, including young children, between 1955 and 1976. After strangling his victims with his bare hands, Kroll would have sex with their corpses, then cut them up in pieces to eat. Interestingly, Kroll was finally caught after a neighbor complained about a backup in the plumbing. When Kroll was arrested, he was in the process of simmering body parts taken from his most recent victim, 4-year-old Marion Ketter. Number 7. At number 7, we have Jack the Ripper, unidentified serial killer 1888. Jack the Ripper may be a name that everyone knows, but no one can be certain of his true identity. In 1888, Jack the Ripper terrorized the Whitechapel neighborhood of London by slitting the throats and abdomens of at least 5 prostitutes and leaving them for dead. Sometimes, he would even remove the woman's uterus and take it as a sort of prize. It's unlikely Jack the Ripper's true identity will ever be figured out, but Ripperology, the study and analysis of the murders, has certainly inspired quite a few. Number 6. Coming in at number 6 is John Wayne Gacy, 1942 to 1994. He was nicknamed Killer Clown because of his job attending children's birthday parties and charitable events as Pogo the Clown. His occupation gave him easy access to potential victims. He would lure them to his home, kill them via either strangulation or asphyxiation, then bury them on his property. Gacy was executed in 1994. Number 5. At number 5, we have Albert Fish, 1870 to 1936. When a serial killer is dubbed the Brooklyn Vampire, the Moon Maniac, the Werewolf of Wisteria, the Gray Man, and the Boogie Man, it's almost certain he is thoroughly deranged. Fish was tried and found guilty of raping, killing, and cannibalizing 3 children in the early 1900s. Especially deranged is the fact that Fish sent a letter to the mother of one of his victims, 10-year-old Grace Budd. The letter detailed how he had lured the little girl, strangled her, and then cut her into pieces to eat over the course of 9 days. Number 4. Taking the number 4 spot is Jeffrey Dahmer, 1960 to 1994. Dahmer, known as the Milwaukee Cannibal, was ultimately convicted of murdering 17 young men over a 14-year period. But Dahmer didn't just murder them. He also raped, dismembered, and sometimes even ate his victims. During his trial, Dahmer admitted to drilling a hole into his victims' heads in an attempt to turn them into mindless sex slaves. Although Dahmer likely would have been executed for his crimes, he was beaten to death in prison in 1994. Number 3. At number 3, we have Andrei Chikatilo, 1936 to 1994. Between 1978 and 1990, the Russian serial killer Andrei Chikatilo sexually assaulted, murdered, and mutilated more than 50 young women and children. Chikatilo killed his victims by stabbing and slashing them with a knife. Chikatilo later admitted that he was only able to achieve orgasm by stabbing women, a fact which made it difficult for him to resist his strong urges to kill. Though he confessed to a total of 56 brutal murders, he was tried for 53, sentenced to death, and executed by firing squad in 1994. Number 2. Coming in at number 2 is Harold Shipman, 1946 to 2004. Nicknamed Dr. Death, Harold Shipman is thought to be responsible for murdering 218 of his patients between 1972 and 1998. In reality, the number of people he murdered is likely much higher. As a practicing physician, Shipman had easy access to potential victims, which is why he was able to be such a prolific killer without raising suspicion. However, because Shipman was involved in so many cases in which patients died, people eventually began to suspect foul play. Most of his victims were elderly women, whom he said had died in their sleep. But many of these women died during the day, which struck some as odd. He died by suicide in prison in 2004. Number 1. And finally, the infamous is Ted Bundy, 1946 to 1989. Bundy is easily one of the most deranged serial killers, not to mention kidnappers, rapists, burglars, and necrophiles of all time. His modus operandi included kidnapping his female victims, raping them, and then dismembering them. He often kept their heads as souvenirs. Before he was executed in 1989, Bundy admitted to kidnapping and murdering 30 women, though this number is almost certainly much higher. What do you think of our list? Did we miss any of your favorites? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more great content, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.